Have you ever had trouble with your child or had him sent home from school or been told he's too out of control for preschool, grade school? Well, I was that kid. Yeah, I was. And the process of building self control needs to happen. Most kids start to build self control in grade school, but some kids take longer, particularly ADD kids. Self regulation is an example of executive functioning. Often, kids, particularly ones with ADD, will struggle with this self regulation. It involves flexible attention, working memory, and most of all, control of inhibitions. It's the ability to regulate and manage emotion. Most of all, these are teachable skills. You can help your child work on skills like waiting and controlling emotions. This is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD, and this is going to be a little longer video because this is a complex subject. Kids with strong self-regulation skills are shown to do better academically and also be less prone to act in an impulsive or an aggressive way. They're also less prone to withdraw when things get overwhelming. Some kids continue to struggle with this long after their peers. If your child has trouble controlling emotions and impulses at this age, you may need some extra help. Let's talk about things you can do to help your child develop this self-regulation. First and foremost, let's avoid showing emotion or matching the kid's tone of voice. Try and keep your voice steady and calm, even if they're yelling. You might try even doing your midnight DJ voice. Be clear about expectations. Some kids react badly when they don't know what to expect in a situation. And is that really so different than adults? Fill your child in ahead of time if an activity is going to be boring or unpleasant. We're going to wait to visit Grandma, and she and I will be taking a while. Why don't you bring some things to play with so you won't get really bored? My friend and her kids are coming to visit, and they can only stay for about an hour. You might want to let them play with some of your Legos, but put away any ones that you find are really special. One of the things that we all like as an adult is to know rationale and reason. Explain the reason behind your rules. When it comes to helping kids learn to make healthy choices, the authoritarian approach is best because it helps kids understand reasons behind rules. And this isn't to say that it's an angry authoritarian approach. It's just a firm, matter-of-fact approach. Instead of saying, do your homework now because I say so. And how many times did many of us hear our mother or father say that? Explain the underlying reason behind that rule. Say, it's really a good choice to do your homework first, and then you'll have some free time later. You know, that free time later can actually be a reward for you getting stuff done. This helps your child understand the underlying reason for your rules. Of course, you don't want to launch into lengthy lectures. Children only have so much capacity, and you need to keep it simple. Quick explanations around why certain choices are desirable. They help your child understand. Most of all, give consequences. We can't avoid the fact that life will always have natural consequences. And that's all through the course of life. If we don't show up to our job on time, they might decide they just don't need us. Natural consequences are one of life's greatest lessons. The child who forgets to grab their coat as they run out the door isn't going to learn if you keep bailing them out and enabling them by, oh, here, Johnny, here's your coat. You don't want to get cold. Facing natural consequences for behavior, like feeling cold, might help them remember their coat the next time. Other times, kids need logical consequences. A kid who plays way too rough with their parents' belongings might learn to be gentler if they lose the privilege of using whatever that is. A child who has trouble getting up in the morning may need an earlier bedtime than that previous night. Most of all, it's important to avoid power struggles. Trying to force your child to do something won't teach discipline. Let me tell you a little story about my own life as a parent. I incorporated many of my dad's kind of autocratic ways of being, and I didn't want to be that way. And my son was probably about 4. And he insisted that he was going to have his glass of milk on the edge of the table. I'd move it back. He'd move it to the edge. I'd move it back. He'd move it to the edge. And finally, my wife, bless her soul, said, you know, it's only a glass of milk. If it spills, we can clean it up. It is good to be married to somebody with that kind of common sense that reins you in. But I realized that I will never win a power struggle with a 4-year-old. So avoid those power struggles. Explain what those negative consequences will be if your child makes a poor choice. Then let your child make the choice. You might say something, when you pick up your toys, you'll just plain have more time to be on the computer. But you need to follow through with consequences. If they don't pick them up, don't yell or try and force them into compliance. But you need to keep that consequence. Well, you don't have that time to play. Keep in mind, kids need to learn how to make healthy decisions on their own. And they need to examine the potential consequences of their behavior. One of the things I really like to do is ask the child, what do you think the consequence should be for, this particular negative behavior? This can't be when they're out of control, because when people or children are out of control, they just can't think. Be aware that children will often come up with much harsher consequences. You're going to have to rein them in and make consequences appropriate. But part of that learning is to have children think about, what are natural consequences, or what things I should experience in this cause and effect world. One of the things that you have to realize is that you are shaping behavior, and it takes a matter of steps. Self-discipline is a process, and it actually takes some years to really get it down and refine. Age-appropriate discipline. Timeouts should be a minute per year of the child. You can't expect a 6-year-old to suddenly be able to do their entire morning routine without reminders. Use a picture chart on the wall that shows those steps. Sometimes that's really helpful for kids, particularly if you have a really visual child. You can even take pictures of your child doing these activities and create your own chart. But when necessary, you want to provide reminders to your child to look at the chart, look at the sequence. In some ways, it's not unlike having a checklist. And I have a video on not forgetting to do anything that I'm not going to include in this one, but I encourage you to go take a peek at that one, because there is a real parallel in terms of using a pictured sequence of the expectations, for example, launching in the morning, to using a checklist. But eventually, if you provide the reminders, they'll be able to look at the chart on their own and do each task on their own. But they're going to need reminders. They aren't little adults. They'll require a little prompting. Anytime your child is learning a new skill or gaining more independence, realize that you have to help them one small step at a time. Help identify feelings. Unfortunately, I think it skews a little bit more negatively toward men. And as a psychotherapist, I find that even adult men, they don't have words to describe what they're feeling. I think women definitely do better with this. You want to help your child identify those feelings so they can learn to recognize feelings before they fester. Together, you can learn to prevent outbursts. One of the things I really like is something called factual commenting. You were really mad when I said you couldn't have that extra cookie. You seemed sad when your sister said she didn't want you being in her room anymore while she was playing with her friends. You can help your child learn to use language, learn to use words to show that self-control. It can help them put on the brakes with that impulsive behavior. I would often prompt my own child with, you need to use words. One of the things is, again, giving your child the vocabulary. You can teach your children phrases like, I feel angry when you do that. It really helps to increase that vocabulary for your children. Feeling has all kinds of nuance, and you can adapt that to the situation you're in. Help give your child the words that they can then learn to recognize emotions, and then start setting some boundaries. Start being able to use words instead of actions. Play and self-control. For young kids, one of the best ways to learn is to learn through play. On the way to the bath, you can have your child stop and start different actions. One of the things I really liked in observing my own granddaughter's preschool is the teacher would have 1, 2, 3, and that signaled time to pull it in, time to quiet down. And they had played at this. And I watched it play out in a group setting where they were having an assembly. And the kids were getting a little rowdy and a little noisy. So all the teacher had to do was put his finger up. 1, 2, 3. And the whole class quieted down because they had played at that. They learned that that was the signal. Time to pull it in, time to settle it down. One of the things that I think we all need is to just take a break. You want to have a little quiet place where your child can calm down. And we aren't talking about a timeout corner. We're talking about some sort of cozy spot where a kid can sort of regroup, a special place where they can go to just kind of collect themselves when they feel out of control. If you've ever felt out of control yourself, you know what an incredibly disturbing feeling that is. It could be feelings of rage or panic or anything, but it feels just awful. And it really helps to create that place where your child can regroup. Give related rewards. And this goes hand in hand with praising your child's efforts. When you see your child practicing self-control, acknowledge it out loud. It's interesting because the very worst jobs for adults are ones that give no feedback whatsoever. A second choice are ones that only give negative feedback. And, many of us as kids had just negative feedback from our parents. The very best jobs are ones that give positive feedback. This kind of positive reinforcement just helps a kid feel proud and competent and successful in controlling the behavior. Again, I come back to that whole aspect of factual commenting. I love how you waited patiently for your turn. Boy, this is the third time this week that you didn't interrupt me while I was trying to be on my Zoom call. I really appreciate it when you have been talking in an inside voice. Self-control just doesn't come naturally, but helping your child keep their behavior in check makes it easier for your child to make and keep friends and handle their feelings. And it improves self-esteem. That aspect of praising good behavior. Sometimes good behavior goes unnoticed. Giving your kids praise for those good choices just increases the likelihood that they're going to repeat that behavior. There's an old saying that you get more honey if you don't kick over the beehive. When kids do things without requiring a reminder, say, great job sitting down to do your homework, even before I asked you to do it. I'm so proud that you chose to clean your room today all on your own. It's just so important to do that. Another way of reinforcing is to have a reinforcement system. It may be a star chart where you target specific behavioral problems. For example, a preschooler may have a lot of trouble just kind of staying in bed. How many of you have struggled with getting your child to stay in bed once they go to bed? A sticker chart may motivate them. Again, so many stickers, they get a reward. An older child who just is having trouble doing homework on time and getting chores done may benefit from a token economy system. I have one parent that I've been working with, and on Amazon, they have these wonderful metal doubloons. They're coins. And that has been really something pretty cool for a reward system. It's tangible, it's concrete, and they aren't expensive. Reward systems should be short-term. Praise them for getting the reward as they begin to develop that self-discipline. Bear in mind, there are plenty of rewards that really don't cost money. It may be extra time on the computer. I'm a believer in limiting screen time with kids, but this can be used as a reward, even as we used it with this one family. Most important, you want to model self-discipline. And at the very beginning of this video, I mentioned that it's really important to modulate your own tone of voice. Don't mirror your child when they're out of control. Calm is the rule for the day. Kids learn best by watching adults. For example, if your child sees you putting off, doing the dishes and watching TV instead, they're going to pick up those habits. Pay attention to areas where you yourself might struggle with discipline. Maybe you lose your temper when you get angry. Those are areas that you can work on. Acknowledge, sometimes daddy gets angry. He doesn't mean to, and that's something daddy needs to work on. Make it clear to your child that you seek to do better. So if you're finding this video useful, I would really appreciate you giving it a like and share your own experience. What's resonating with you? Share this in the comment sections. Other parents will be appreciative of seeing that they aren't alone. Now, I want to ask you a question. We've covered a number of strategies here, and which of these is most useful for you personally? I'd really appreciate it if you left this in the comments section. So this is GH Glade for Coaching ADD, and I'd appreciate you giving this video a like. I'd also appreciate you sharing it with other parents because, these struggles are not unique to the parents of ADD children. It may be a little bit more challenging with an ADD child, but they are not at all unique. So please give me a like, please share, and please see me next week when I launch another video. Take care and have a great day.